Good evening, people. Today we're doing the hypodermic needle theory, as you can see. It's also known as the magic bullet theory. Call it whatever you want.
Sorry, Joe.
What do you think, Joe? Right, hypodermic needle, obviously also known as the magic bullet theory. It was the first major theory concerning the effect of mass media on society.
Just move on, quick.
Right, originating in the 1920s, it had the premise that an all-powerful media had direct and uniform effects on the audience. So by uniform we mean that every person will have basically the same effect on them. It's therefore an effects theory that contends that viewers are passive and they're directly affected by what they view, and they don't consider the media's merits. They just consume it.
Hook, line, and sinker theory.
Yes. How was it derived? Early thinking about the mass media held that audience members was when they were separate from each other, and we'll do an example about that in a minute, they were vulnerable targets and easily influenced by media messages. So what do we mean by separate from each other? So initially, one of the first mass forms of media that you can think of is going to be the paper, isn't it?
Yep.
And traditionally, the male would be alone, reading the paper with his cup of tea or whatever it is, and the views of considering this paper is going to be the only source of media you're going to get, it's going to be also be the only source of information you're going to receive. And whatever view the author wants to give you, you're going to have an alternative. So you're just going to see that and believe it. I believe that the media can shape public opinion and masses towards any desired point of view. So again, the paper author, whatever he wants to believe, he can replicate in his readers. So every paper, they would also believe that everyone who reads the paper, they're not going to have their own personal interpretation, and they're again just going to get out the author's message.
So this is like the 1930s simplistic propaganda.
Yes, yeah.
Style in the 1930s.
So we've got another example of that in a minute.
Cool.
Well, big famous example here. I'm sure many of you heard of it. In America, in about 1938, there was they had a famous book, and it was written out on the radio called War of the Worlds, and people tuned into this broadcast and they heard things like rains of fire and aliens are raining over us, and people actually thought New York was under attack, and people actually brought up their bags and actually went and packed off with a shotgun. And it supports the theory because people are just like robots in a way. They're thinking, oh no, we're under attack. They're not thinking of anything else. And another popular supportation of this is back in the 1920s when the Nazis had they gave up massive radio broadcasts. They was one of the first people to actually do it, and they gave up mass propaganda broadcasts. The family would sit and listen around, and they was encouraged to listen to the radio. In fact, they were forced to, and it was actually a very good source of propaganda for Hitler himself, and he got his views. He was one of the first people he got his views to people around the country, regardless.
Not just around the country, I mean around the world.
Around the world as well, yes.
Those views are broadcast all over.
Mm-hmm. And you on?
No?
As you can probably think of now, there are few problems with the theory. It tends to ignore matters such as personal interpretation, which, as we know, is crucial to the media and communication process. It was based on generalisations, based on assumptions on the time of human nature. So things basically like monkey see, monkey do. They read the media and then they act upon it. Basically, they don't. There's no middle step. It's just one then the other. A more modern view is the two-step flow. It's still got its flaws, but we'll talk about that now. So it's two-step flow communication theory. You can see that the mass media and the branches of it, you have the opinion leaders. Now, these people would be someone like, we'll say, let's do it in the example of a film. So we've got the mass media, which would be the film, and the opinion leaders would be the critics, and people off that, and people in social contact would be people reading the review. So you could think of it as the critic would say either a positive or a negative view about the film, and the people who are in contact with him are going to either come out from the review with a positive or negative view, purely on what he has said. Hello, welcome back. It's part 2. This time I've got my friend Joe here.
Hello.
We was just on the two-step flow theory. And who is this theory introduced by? Well, it is introduced by Paul Lazarsfeld, Bernard Bunslow and Hazel Gaudet in the People's Choice magazine. I apologise if I've got any of your names wrong if you're reading this. Right, and what is the study? It occurred in 1944, and it focused on the process of decision-making in the presidential election campaign.
Got a bit of a freeze on them.
Yes.
It does it every time, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's caught it.
Here we go.
The hypothesis states that ideas often flow from radio and print to opinion leaders, and from these to the less active sections of the population.
It's been tested in several successive studies, and you can kind of get the idea from the example we gave earlier, that the ideas flow from people that are more engaged in that media to people that are less engaged. So, like, the film critic is going to be heavily engaged in the film industry, and these people are going to seek to him because he's more experienced in that. Let's move on. Right, how is the theory opposed to hypodermic needle theory? Well, one of them, over time, the hypodermic needle theory hasn't changed much at all over time. And as research methodology becomes more highly developed, it becomes apparent that the media had more selective influences on people.
All right, that's because the more sophisticated your research instruments, the more sophisticated your model. If all you've got is a blunt way of collecting data, you wind up with a simplistic model like the hypodermic model. When you can collect more sophisticated data that shows the relative effects of these media, you wind up with more sophisticated.
Yeah, the quality of your conclusions is limited by the quality of your evidence.
Very good. All right, next one.
People have their own interpretations towards a piece of media.
Right, so we've got other communication theories.
Uses and gratification.
Mm-hmm. This approach focuses on why people use particular media rather than on the context or the content. Sorry.
In contrast to the concern of the media affects tradition with what media do to people.
Right, so instead of focuses on what effects media have on people, it focuses on why people engage in the particular media.
What use they're making of it. So
yes.
If you've had that thing where you've gone home and turned the telly on to have some basically moving wallpaper, you're using it for a purpose.
Yes.
It's not like it's telling you what to think.
Uses and gratifications arose originally in the 1940s and underwent a revival in the 1970s and 80s.
And you think why this is, particularly with the 70s, you've got the... in the 70s there was you've got the internet age. And
a bit early. What
yes.
happened in the 70s, we extended the network so that we had a wider number of channels appearing on the television. We had digitisation of some media, and we had the development of the record and CD industry.
Could that be what?
So you've got
development of a new channel?
It's an increase in the variety of media available, so you have to be able to explain what's going on.
Yeah, so as opposed to the one media
it's like what you said about the 1930s,
yeah.
you've got the guy with the newspaper. Now the guy with the newspaper has a CD to listen to, has a radio to listen to, TV channels
and
to
he's
watch.
got 200 newspapers,
Yeah.
Whatever he wants. Right, gratifications are usually obtained from a medium's content. So you would watch a specific programme from familiarity with the genre within the medium. So we'll get on to that now.
Can't see.
Right, so you watch something like a soap opera because it's become a ritual pleasure to you. You watch it every night. You watch it every night at 9, and it's just something you do.
How many of us are like that? We have to watch our soap opera every day.
Yeah.
What's your soap opera there, Amy?
Do I really have to say?
Yeah, you do. Hollyoaks.
Hollyoaks.
And if you miss Hollyoaks, it upsets you.
Actually, I haven't watched it all week, but yeah.
You get the idea that people get a bit het up if they don't see their episodes, don't they? Go on then.
Right, and you've also got it from general exposure to the medium, so watching TV, so you're more likely to become across a TV programme, obviously.
And from the social context in which it is used.
So we've got watching TV with the family, obviously something that's going to greatly affect your choice of media. So we've got other effects, as many as you can think of. The influence of mood can also affect on the programme choice you can have. So if you're bored, you're going to choose exciting content. and if you're stressed,